Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. Welcome. With me is Sam West. Today we will be covering our picks for the top 5 and one worst level 1 Warlock spells.
Absolutely. I'm a big Warlock advocate. And while this spell selection may not make it sound that way, but I do think Warlocks are a great time and would recommend playing.
I am interested to know what your picks are going to be because we'll have some similar ones, but yeah,
There are not many
not many like viable or not many at all.
at all. This is a very short first level spell list.
Well, compared to wizard and stuff, but
even sorcerer, druid, cleric,
yeah.
they all have longer lists than this.
There's enough to where there's going to be some we're not going to talk about.
True. It's not like there's 6. There are like a dozen or so. There's a lot of important caveats with Warlock. We're going to be talking about this a lot every time we're doing these levels, is how pack magic works. So Warlocks always cast at their highest available level. That means you're never going to have lower level spell slots to use on cheap effects. So things like Shield, for example, is a first level effect with no upcast. It is very uniquely bad on Warlock because you will have to spend 5th level spell slots one day using it. Another big element to consider. Pact Magic limits you to very few spell slots per short rest, as opposed to a large laundry list of them per long rest. So you'll have 2 to 3 of them for most of the game. And that means every first level spell you take is going to compete with every second level spell you take, which competes with every third level spell you take, which competes with every 4th level spell you take, all for the same 2 slots. So your spell selection, you have to pick the things you care about the absolute most when it comes to building your character. They have to be things you're dedicating time to using regularly, because you're not going to have windows to cast all of your spells all the time. It's going to be things like, normally you're going to default to using whatever your highest level spells are, and that's going to make a lot of the first level stuff kind of get shoved out very quickly.
Okay, so then why? All right, I'm trying to figure out then why does it matter so much what spells we pick if we're just going to be using the higher level spells later on anyway?
So I would say this, the importance will come down to your ability to budget powerful things at all points of the game. So because you don't have a lot of spell slots, you want every time you cast a spell to have a very big impact. The higher impact your spells have, and you do have a very limited list of known spells, the better, which leads you to circumstances where there'll be some spells that are exclusively used in combat, and in combat they are excellent. There'll be some other spells that are exclusively used out of combat, and out of combat they are excellent. Both of those are going to have a much higher priority on my sheet than something that is flexible, because I only have 2 slots anyway. I'm going to use the best thing in the moment I can to get as much advantage out of this character, generally speaking. It's not the end of the world, honestly. You're going to find that most of the power of Warlock is outside of their spell lists, but, these are things that you want to weigh pretty heavily whenever you're taking them, just to be like, will I ever cast this? It makes things that have limited niche uses functionally unable to be cast on your sheet. There'll be times where you'll even see something like Comprehend Language and be like, oh, I mean, if I'm not going to cast it anyway, where does this really hurt putting it on my sheet? The small window where you would consider, oh, I could use it in this niche environment, it's not good enough there. You only have 2 slots, so you're not going to use it even if it's an option for you to at that point. So
Yeah,
that's
but
going to
you'll have
default you to
higher
other
level
powerful
spells
spells.
anyway.
Yes, but there may be that one window down the road where it's like, I really need this other effect that I'm going to talk about today. I'm glad it's on my character sheet, even if it has to compete with my higher level spells, because its upcast does do something important. Again, everything's going to be competing with each other in a very, very tight race.
All right. Well, I made a token effort to think about that while I was choosing my spells, but not a strong one because of the questions I just asked you.
That's fair. There's even another even larger caveat, which is the spell list, like I said at the beginning, isn't particularly large, but Warlocks also expand their spell list, but don't get them auto-prepared like a lot of other people do. They have their Patron at first level that gives them access to 2 extra spells per spell level, and a lot of those are better than these. A lot of those, especially for the tier you get them, are going to be spells you're going to want to regularly cast. So for example, Fiend gets Burning Hands. That's going to make a lot of early game melee Warlocks very happy. Things like Genie gets a huge list of variety of features that has a lot of effects you'll care about. Celestial gets Guiding Bolt, which sets you up as a kind of like this big artillery blaster kind of archetype for the first 2 levels. And then when you get into the mid game, the damage options are going to be like the last thing you're casting anymore with the spell slot. Normally you're doing long duration concentration effects. But you know,
I mean,
Warlock is complicated and messy.
I feel like that makes the selection here even less crucial.
Fair.
All right.
You want to
Okay,
optimize the hell out of your character sheet. This technically matters, but it's like giving you a 2% bump up in power in the long term. In reality, you'll get third level and be like, oh, I'm just going to cast the good spells that I just got and never worry about my first level slots ever again.
All right. I feel a lot better now that we've had this conversation, because I came into this video thinking, oh man, Sam's going to yell at me.
Don't mind.
All right.
The night's still young.
All right. With all that in mind, let's go through our picks. I'll go. I think you went first last time. I'll be daring, not too daring. This one feels right. I picked Charm Person.
I think Charm Person is my number one.
Is it?
I think.
Okay. You do have a list.
I do have a list, yes.
Okay.
They're up. I always do this. Viewers peek behind the curtain. I just have the wiki pulled up, and I've got like the 5 tabs, and that's like my order. And then like I move them around if I'm like, I don't think this anymore, and like scoot them around willy nilly as we're talking. But
yeah, I figure Charm Person. It's useful when you get it. It's useful later. It does it upcast, right?
Sure does, and it upcasts in a really impactful, important way. It targets more creatures.
Yes.
This is the kind of thing that I was talking about whenever I was like, I want to have powerful effects that will possibly matter in the future. I can envision a lot of Warlocks will be like, even before a 5th level slot, this hitting 5 things is good here. And like, it's a powerful enough effect that I'm just going to do it because it gets us out of this encounter. So yeah, I think Charm Person is excellent. Doesn't require concentration, long duration. Yeah, check.
All right. Well, it was my choice, so no argument here.
Mm-hmm.
You want to move on?
Sure. Charm Person. It's great in combat. It's great prior to combat, and it's great in social environments. So you can get a lot of mileage out of Charm Person, especially in the lowest tiers. Cause Fear is my number 2. I think Cause Fear is a little bit of an underrated gem. And while it's no Hideous Laughter, and there is a subclass against Hideous Laughter, it upcasts to let you target multiple things, which makes me kind of like, yeah, this spell kind of slaps. Pose disadvantage on a couple of things for a minute, you throw it down early, you throw out some blasts, the rest of the time, you're pretty happy.
All right, I looked at it. I did not consider the upcast. I perhaps should have. I like Fear so much, and Cause Fear doesn't have the text that I like, so
because they get to keep holding their things, and you don't get to like rifle through their pockets. You're way lower on it.
I am. That's my favorite part of Fear.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I perhaps judge this unfairly, but no, it's still good. I still considered it, but ultimately did not make my list.
I also think, like, the viewers at home, you might notice, we're at this stage, we're not really even touching on spells that make Wizard top 5, make Sorcerer top 5, make other top 5 as the other spell lists, right? I'm not saying Cause Fear is like a backbreaking spell. I even prefaced it by saying there's a better spell on one of the subclasses spell lists that you probably want to consider over it. But for any Warlock that is looking for a conditional effect, if you're Fiend and you want a way to impose a condition, I think Cause Fear is a perfectly reasonable option to have on your sheet that you'll keep on your sheet for a couple levels. You might cast a 2nd level spell every once in a while. You're probably never casting it as a 3rd level spell, but that modality is useful and something you should think about.
All right. Yeah, it's a good one. That's that might have been better than some of my picks. We'll find out. Such as I picked Hex.
That's my number 3.
Yeah. That's it's fun. I had to do it again to make absolutely sure of what it did, but yeah. It's we'll just do it. Yeah, you when you attack, you add some D6 necrotic damage. Good time.
Hex to me is Rogue Sneak Attack. Is kind of how I conceptualize it for the early tier. This is on both blasters and just bow users, or just characters that have confidence that they can maintain concentration on this. It's gonna come down, and you're just gonna have it for the dungeon, and it's just gonna be like, okay, where my rogue needs to get someone within range of them, I have an hour of this as long as I'm not getting hit. And the bonus D6 damage on attack rolls, especially for levels 1 through 3, is going to feel pretty impactful. The big hiccup with it is until 3rd and 4th level, the duration is only an hour, but the upcast doesn't increase this damage at all. So, like, you don't want to ever be spending 5th level slots on Hex unless you're, like, positive you're firing off barrages of Eldritch Blasts and you're not going to drop concentration. And in those windows, I'm like, okay, I get it. But if that's not where you're at, this does get a lot worse as the game goes on, I think, over like varying up. Like Thirsting Blade builds lose this for Shadow of Moil. And there are other upgrades that I probably take over Hex in some positions as the game goes on.
All right. Well, I don't know because all right, the concentration up to an hour. If you're going through like a dungeon crawl, getting into a bunch of fights, you're either gonna not get hit, and this is gonna be awesome, or yeah, it'll be okay because you'll get a few uses in, and it's a first level spell. Upcasting it, if it lasts 8 hours, then it's gonna be kind of the same situation. Not in a dungeon crawl, but over the course of a normal adventuring day, you get in a few fights. If you don't get hit in the first fight, you're happy this is still around.
It's all the consideration is Warlock's got a bunch of the new summon stuff, which is going to take your concentration, and this takes your concentration. So the windows where you would want a long duration, an hour-long thing, I'm probably going to want to Shadow Spawn up over this basically always. And because this always upcasts, that gets multi-attack, and this goes longer. And like adventures don't often go longer than an hour, right? You're not often trudging through the dangerous wilderness being like, fight 3 hours later, fight 3 hours later, fight. And if it does happen, you can short rest. And when you short rest, you get your spell slots back. So
that's a good point. Did not consider that. That's
yeah. Right. I've come down on Hex a little bit in the recent year, just in that it's still a great tool in the early game, but given the robust tools Warlocks now have for the mid game, I don't think you need this anymore. I think you're gonna take it early. Some bids will stick with it for a bit, but a lot of people will lose this third, fourth, fifth level and be fine with that. But in the early tier, I still think like you'll feel like a spelly rogue, and that's kind of the closest analog I think Warlock has as far as classes go is rogue.
Well, I do like that it so many things work with a ranged attack, with a melee attack. This is just with an attack, and that covers a lot.
Yeah, it sticks it on every single Warlock that makes an attack roll can use this spell.
Okay. Your turn, I think.
All right, number 4. I never thought this would earn this honor, but there really is nothing better. It's Arms of Hadar.
Okay, I considered that. That's one of those ones I thought, oh, Sam's gonna yell at me, and I didn't pick it. But yeah, don't worry, there's still some I did.
I'm nervous. So it's like a 2d6 area of effect damage thing. It's fine. It's a disengage. It's a place to put damaging spells, I guess. The damage is a lot lower than Burning Hands. I don't love the area better than Burning Hands. It is harder to get more creatures to take the damage than something like Burning Hands, and it's got higher risk because you're like, where Burning Hands you have to be in the range of one of them. This says I have to be in range of everything I'm damaging, which means it's like, are you running in using this and running out? Are you already in there using this and just hoping enough things fail that you're leaving? In the situation where this is best, like ideally things are within 10 feet of you at the start of your turn, making the strength save, failing it, and then enough of them fail that you can leave with no attacks of opportunity. But like if any get attacks of opportunity, it's kind of like debilitating. So I just wouldn't be in that position, right? Like just don't take a spell for whenever you're already going to die, I guess is like my advice, especially given that this spell is only going to be good at levels 1 or 2, because you certainly should never upcast this.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was thinking while we were recently talking about the Way of the Drunken Master Monk. This felt like these are the kinds of situations you know, rather than having something useful to do in them, you just don't get in them.
And like your DM isn't gonna often try and throw so many things at you that they'll just overwhelm and kill you, right? Like this game is determined by action advantage. Like that's where most of the power comes. So if they throw 14 goblins at you, even at 3rd level characters, they're like, oh, they're only CR1/2, they'll be fine. No, you're gonna die. They got 13 attacks. The party's going under. There's not coming back from that unless you get some very lucky area of effect damage hits in. So I don't think you would. I don't think I would expect to see Arms of Hadar perform well on any table, and it's my 4th best Warlock spell.
All right. Let's
this
see.
This is
what
even
else
more of a recommendation to take your subclass spells.
Let's see. I chose, and I've never been a huge fan of this, but I chose Protection from Evil and Good.
That's my number 5.
Is it? All right. Yeah, it's got some cool benefits. It's just, I guess, I was going to say highly dependent on if you're running into these kinds of creatures, but it is a pretty decent list of creatures. You'll meet them every now and again.
Yeah, 6 creature types is meaningful. 3 are very common. Fae Fiends, Undead, those are all over the place a lot of times, right? They're very common, very popular things to fight against. Aberrations are also really cool and fun, and Elementals are like big splashy things all the time. Methods are pretty common little enemies. The things that I really like about this is at 1st and 2nd level, it's a 1st level spell. And then past 3rd level, you don't cast it anymore. So, like, you switch it out for a new 2nd level spell because it doesn't upcast. And this definitely is worth a 1st level spell slot, not a 2nd level spell slot, especially given the silver bullet nature of it, especially given that it takes your concentration. At levels 1 and 2, if you're going to like into Curse Straw and doing the Dead House, yeah, slam this on your sheet. You're gonna have a great time. You're gonna have like, oh yeah, I can keep the Barbarian alive or the Paladin alive or be alive if I want to play like, you know, an in combat slashing things to death with a greatsword. It's gonna be great. And then after that, the moment you hit 3rd level, be like, see a protection from good and evil. Thank you for your service, and I will move on with any other 2nd level spell of my choice.
All right. I really don't have much to say about it. I just didn't like a lot of this list.
It beats ghosts. Neat.
All right, what do you
This
got?
list is pretty bad. Like, but that's all 5 of mine. Yeah, I 5 for
Oh,
5.
that's
You got one more for me.
what do I got? Let's see. I got 2 more.
Get 2 more? Wait, what did you not? Oh, you didn't pick Cossphere. You didn't pick Arms Vidar. Oh, goodness. Bob. Bob.
All right. All right. I picked Unseen Servant for utility.
But you're not a ritual caster.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you happy spending a 1st level spell slot on Unseen Servant?
No, that was my last pick, but
That's fair.
it felt like something it's an hour. I can have my
Yeah.
servant do stuff.
That's true. It won't cost you like it'll last a while and it doesn't take your concentration and can do little things. So I think a 1st level, 2nd level character maybe gets enough out of that if you're in a very dynamic, if you're in an environment that's very well described where you can place objects sort of in the world with your DM to interact with the Unseen Servant with. Maybe that's a table where this can be good. Is it better than Pro Evil and Good or Arms of Vidar on Warlock? Maybe. I gave you some crap, but I do like the spell a lot. It's way better when you get it in Book of Ancient Secrets.
Yeah. I mean, this list, I wanted something with utility. I got enough. I mean, if I'm playing a Warlock, I'm probably going to be a Blaster. That's got my damage covered. That's like, I wanted something different.
Strong Person is that option for you. I got you. Don't worry.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my justification there for Unseen Servant. I probably wouldn't take it. I'm not too huge on it. But my last pick is something we talked about it recently. Hellish Rebuke. We had the talk, and it's still fun for me.
It's awful. It's terrible. Hellish Rebuke is not a good spell, especially on Warlock.
I know, but well, I mean, like I said, we had the talk, but it's still looking at the rest of this list. I mean, it gives me something to do with my reaction once, and
For half of your resources.
Yeah.
For 2d10 fire damage.
But it's cool.
For one thing.
Yeah.
I'll give you this. I will agree this list is shite, and that is definitely a spell that's not the worst.
All right, listen. Before I chose this, I actually went back and watched our Hellish Rebuke video.
Yeah.
And the argument you came back with is half your resources. And this is why I started this video today, questioning you about the pack magic and like, oh, it's a 1st level spell, and if you upcasting things later anyway, why not just use your higher level spells? And that's why I came back to this. It's may not be the most powerful thing in the world, but when I get to use it, it's a lot of fun.
When you get Sure. I'm largely in the camp that you shouldn't ever cast this spell.
All right.
But that's fine.
Yeah. That's my list.
That's fair. Viewers at home, what you should take away by these last 10 minutes of Bob and I being like, wow, these spells kind of suck, is look at your patron spells. Look at Burning Hands. Look at Thunderwave even. Look at Sleep and Archfey. Celestial gets Guiding, or what's it called? Guiding Bolt, which I rate way higher than I rate Inflict Wounds, because it's more damage and gives advantage to an ally. And like, it's still a spell slot for some damage, but like, I will take that every single time over Hellish Rebuke. There are some dud lists, like Hexblade in particular is like, oh, I like Shield is a banger spell on anyone that has spell slots, and Warlocks sure don't get those. So, maybe don't take the Hexblade spells, but every other spell for the most part will give you some powerful first level spell that I would absolutely put on my top 5 list over my number 5 and 4. So like, take that with what you will. Consult your patrons. They not only give you banger features, they also give you banger spells.
All right. Now the worst. There are some contenders here.
Oh, I'm really excited talking about mine though, because we don't get to talk about it enough.
Okay. You want to go first?
Sure, it's Witch Bolt. Witch Bolt sucks.
Yeah, I figured yours would be Witch Bolt. I had two. I was going back and forth between two of them, and Witch Bolt was not one of those.
Oh, there are a lot of bad spells. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There are plenty of others. One of them is from a book that you hate, and the other is from it's just the base PHP, but it's also awful. Don't worry. I agree. Those are also terribly uncastable. But Witch Bolt is uniquely terrible because not only does it eat your concentration, not only does it barely out damage Eldritch Blast, and I say barely, like that's cantrip damage. Barely out damage is a cantrip. If a thing, you're spending actions on a worse effect than an attack roll would usually be with like a short sword or a short bow. Like, I'll take a d6 plus 3 over this every single day of the week, and you have to spend actions to maintain what is a d12 damage, assuming you hit. This thing is upfront cost is gigantic. We're getting almost no upside over basically casting a cantrip. If an enemy wants you to stop, they can move behind a tree and then back out from behind that tree, and the spell ends for you anyway, or, they're outside of range of 30 feet from you. This thing takes your concentration for no freaking good reason. You just take actions to keep the damage up round after round after round. You're just like, what's my turn look like? I keep casting a bad spell. Go. No, absolutely not. Horrendous trash. Never will be good. Never has been good. Do not put it on your character sheets. Witch Bolt is a trap that sounds cool, like you're doing Emperor Palpatine crap, and then you use it once and you're like, wait, why is Fred with his longsword doing more damage than me? He could just do that for free. I had to spend I spent money on this. What's happening? Witch Bolt is the ultimate patron scam. It's like your patron's like, oh, hey, I got a deal for you. And it's the most horrendous, gotcha moment of their lives. I can't believe that idiot fell for it and took the Witch Bolt.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, like, if you're going for flavor, this is Eldritch Blast that sucks.
The moment you get Agonizing Blast, it's like, oh, now Eldritch Blast actually out damages Witch Bolt.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, no argument here. But that was not one of my picks. And I guess you sound like you know which ones I'm talking about.
This list is bad, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I have a guess, but go for it. What's your worst?
All right. It came down to between Illusory Script and Distort Value. And yeah, it was a tough choice, but I ultimately chose Distort Value.
I think that's reasonable.
I think Illusory Script for the right player at the right table.
On a different class.
All right, yes. Might have some kind of use.
Yeah.
It's not a table I'm interested in playing at, but
one of my favorite quotes from Veronica from Better Off Dead is another life, another time, two different people. Like, we could have made it work. And that's exactly how this feels for Illusory Script to me.
From Better Off Dead?
No, but it's called Better Off Ted. It's one of the best underrated sitcoms of all time. Show's hilarious. Would recommend. 10 out of 10. Only got 2 seasons.
Better Off Dead. That was that 1980s John Cusack movie. Also excellent.
I believe you. We got deep cuts tonight. Comment as well. Let me know if any of you seen Ted. I'm convinced it should be a cult classic. I love that show. But yeah, Distort Value is trash. You're right that it is worse than Illusory Script, but has some text.
Yeah, and we did a Distort. What the hell does this do? This
it gives you advantage on charisma checks to lie about things, something like that. No, not even that.
No,
it distorts the gold cost of an object you're trying to buy.
Right, or sell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nope.
This is you're gonna get half off turnips.
That's its best use case. This is a minute cast time, by the way. You just spend a minute casting this. You just go into someone's turnip shop and you're like, he's not looking. Okay, great. And you start fiddling with the turnips. Like, absolutely not. To save 5 copper, are you kidding me? Can be magical, right? No, it does say an object, but still.
You don't have to fiddle with the turnips. It's only got a verbal component. You just have to shout at them.
You just a man yelling at potatoes in the farmer's market, just like whispering down to them, and everyone's giving you looks. And you walk up to the cashier and you're like, "This potato is trash. I'd like to buy it, please." And they just go, "Get out of my shop. Stop talking to my produce." Yeah, we haven't read the spell ad nauseum. It is really, 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 really bad. Most of the time, it's just doing what a role play event would do, and for that reason, I think like new players to be like, "Oh, this is how you engage with the game." Is you know, it opens up a window to do some role play and bartering with the shopkeep. That just is, you can extract distort value, remove that from the equation to have the exact same outcome. So you know, don't put this on character sheet. It is also trash.
I also think, you know, like, it's in a world where this spell exists, you know, trying to do this with higher value things just isn't going to work, because
in a world where minor illusion exists, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's I think this one's offensively bad.
It really is. This is, I would say, worse than a cantrip.
Yeah.
Costs you first level spell for some reason.
All right. I guess, you know, triply so for Warlock, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. It is more uniquely bad on a class that doesn't have a lot of spell slots to burn. Like, you're burning a more precious resource casting it on Warlock than you are on casting it on a Wizard. So I guess technically it's worse on Warlock than it is on the other full casters.
All right, makes Hellish Rebuke look pretty good, huh?
Technically.
All right.
I'd love to live in a world where that could be my worst, but we don't live in that world. There is worse things in life than 2d12 fire damage.
All right. You want to run down your list again?
Sure. Charm Person, Cause Fear, Hex, Arms of Adar, and Protection for Good and Evil? ?
And your worst was Witch Bolt. Yes.
Witch Bolt.
All right. Mine was Charm Person, Hex, Hellish Rebuke, Protection from Good and Evil and Good, and Unseen Servant, with my worst being Distort Value.
I might like Unseen Servant more than Protection for Good and Evil. I think I had to put that on more character sheets, so that might deserve my number 5, but here we are.
I wouldn't put either of these on any character sheet. I had to pick something.
Get the ritual book or the ritual caster feat and just write it in there if you want it. It's easier that way. Or just be a ritual caster. You can, the Warlock will offer you that as a pack boon, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Gives you 5 familiar.
Yes, that's true. That's better. All right, that was our first level picks for Warlock Spells. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Sam. Let us know your picks down in the comments and your opinions and whatever. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.